Hello and welcome to the Weshtern Philosophy Podcast. Two friends with oceans and oceans discussing the unseen forces in our lives through the lens of music, mystery, and crack. We have a Patreon. At Weshtern Philosophy Pod, don't forget the H. If you're enjoying the show and would like to see it grow, you can join this or make a one-off donation via the Ko-fi link, both in the show notes below.
Welcome back to Season 3 of the Weshtern Philosophy Pod. We're back with a bang and a disagreement over what the actual topic of the episode is. It will either be spring or seeding.
I said to him, it's funny how sometimes you hear people saying things, or you hear yourself saying things to people that would have been helpful for you, where it's just don't think about it, just keep doing it. And that's like what you were saying about people being unafraid to fail. In a way, sometimes we can actually remove that effortful part. I know that's too.
How about
nothing for you?
This might be a bit weird,
go
but
on.
seeding. You lower those eyebrows.
You lower those eyebrows straight away.
Seeding now sounds like an awful word. It didn't in my head.
It was fine before I did the eyebrows.
But germination or planting seeds, or because that's kind of coming up a little bit.
It is coming up.
And it is spring.
But that is all held in the springtime.
Yeah.
You bastard. You just think that's too...
Spring is, I think it's less of a topic and more of a
vibe.
a vibe. I mean, the content will be the same. We will talk about spring, so...
Okay.
Yeah.
Have it your way.
We can call it seeding / spring. Or spring seed. Do you hate the slashes? Oh my god, the start of season 3 and Bart's.
Oh, you're fucking. How long has this been on?
A while.
Lower those eyebrows.
We got the quality response to seeding anyway, so that's kind of what I mean.
It's nice that we generate content even when we're not trying to generate content. I'm not saying it's worthwhile content, but sure, everything is content.
Falta, Bart.
Well.
And welcome to Season 3 of the Weshtern Philosophy Podcast. We've got that multi-million euro Spotify deal. We're going to ditch all our principles. We've got a sexy new theme song. We have none of those things. We have no deal. We have no new theme song. We have no principles.
But Spotify.
Spotify,
I would love to sell my soul to you. Please. Please. What would you buy first?
What would I buy first? New microphones, but that's just because I'm...
No, but I would think the same. I'd be get the gear.
Yeah.
Get the gear proper.
Yeah. Yeah, which is a bit of a sad answer. But you know what we're doing there, Bart? We're planting a wee Spotify seed. Is what we're
100%.
doing.
And what's nice as well is that you put out a beautiful Tom Waits album, Ballers. And I sound... only a little bit like the man this morning.
You're on your way.
My throat is fair croaky.
Yeah.
So I hope.
By the way, this is completely affected. Bart sounded perfect when he walked in. He saw the Tom Waits album and said,
"Hey guys, they put a sign up in our town. You live it up, you won't live it down." No, I'm all right. I'm all right. Thank you.
You'll make it. You'll make it to the end of the podcast anyway. That's not a question. That's an order.
100%. With the eyebrows lowered, keep the eyebrows lowered. Yeah. So, hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm better than you, which is a sad...
Fucking... What is this eugenics kind of shite that you're throwing at me? You're better. In which ways are you better, Anthony? Because you're smarter and wiser and more handsome. Is that it? Is that it?
In that I'm not clipping.
Sorry,
you're perfect.
Microphone. What do you want? God.
Yeah, this is why we need the Spotify deal, so we can buy lovely mics, and that I can buy.
So we can buy a lad to duck my volume every time.
To throw himself between you and the mic. No, I'm not better than you at all, but I am not as croaky as you.
Oh.
And of course, this is not going out live, but it is a sunny day. And we had a sunny day yesterday, and we've had a sunny day.
A good few sunny days. It's actually felt really like springtime.
Spring. Oh yeah, look at this. The theme is being there's dueling themes this episode.
You're calling it a theme instead of a topic, so you can have the topic and I put the theme.
Oh yeah, sure.
I'm doing the vibes. You're doing the content.
There's dueling within jewels and jewels within jewels. I thought the word seeding was fine until I saw your face when I said it, and but no, it's yeah.
So easy. Like you don't even have to do an innuendo. You just have to go.
Yeah. You and the worst thing is I don't think you even made a face, but you expended effort trying not to make a face, and that was enough. So it feels dead. Oh, don't worry, she's right there for you, Bart.
Oh yeah.
Lovely big coffee pot.
I wasn't signing that either. I was just looking in.
For those people that are listening, which is most of them, Bart, as I was talking, just gazed sadly into his empty coffee cup and just kind of tipped it a little bit and looked even sadder.
I don't know if we've any doctors listening. Is it very healthy? Oh God, I'm doing this with a medical practitioner. Is it very healthy to be drinking a litre of coffee before it's 10 in the morning?
It's very healthy for content, and really isn't that all that matters. No, so I am grand. I struggle in the winter. Like I miss the heat and the sunlight, and I quite like the hermitude of the winter. Like I didn't mind January when January was cancelled effectively between snow and storms. But yeah, I miss the heat. And if you're trying to be productive, it is nice when you have more than 6 hours of daylight to do it in. And yeah, how are you?
I just heard how woo are you, but I must have listened back to that too many times. I'm good. I'm very croaky, but I'm enjoying that we've had a lot of sun.
Yeah.
Which has been great because we didn't really get it last spring, I always feel like there's a certain tone. Like you come around, you crawl into February, March, and it's either like, yeah, this could be good, or it's like, no, this whole year is going to be very...
Oh yeah, it's like
last year...
Winter is now 10 months long.
Yeah. Last year was really bad, and usually I try to be like glass half full kind of guy, going, no, it's not as bad as people think. And last year I was like, yeah, it really is as bad as people say. Like it was really that little, those fucking tourist t-shirts where it's like weather in Ireland, all the seasons are rain, that kind of way. But now it's really nice, and it's feeling nice. But it's funny because it's been very up and down. I've had days where I'm like, there we go, and then like, oh no, back again. And now even this kind of being croaky and being a bit phlegmy, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not fully there yet, but we're moving in to springtime. And it's obviously in Ireland it's been spring already for a long time.
Yeah, Bridget sorted us out. Yep.
But this we're recording now just on the 20th of March, which maybe I shouldn't say, you can bleep it out to make it sound like we're super relevant. But so that's the for the other people, that's the last day of winter.
And when last we met our heroes, they were limping over the finish line into Christmas, and now we're back, high energy.
And we had I don't know if you want to talk about this, but we had your stag, which was lovely.
My stag party. It was.
He doesn't really want to talk about it. He's starting to talk a bit faster.
No, it's it was very funny because a couple of. Well, first of all, I don't drink that much, so you, God love you, as my best man, were tasked with keeping me, an antisocial and distressingly sober man.
Distressingly sober is very good.
Yeah, well the center of attention for like a full day, and so that was well done. It was great, but there was a plan for a couple of lads a couple of my friends to fly in from overseas to travel.
Don't be talking about that.
But between the jigs and the reels and a lot of unexpected and unavoidable circumstances, a couple of them couldn't make it. And then a third one, the day before my stag, he rang me up. He was like, sent me a text. He was like, come here, do you have time for a quick call? And I was just like, don't you fucking dare, Barry. Don't you fucking dare. We're 2 down already. You're not allowed. You could come here fucking bleeding and you're still coming to the stag. But he came anyway, just a bit late. But I was telling this to Katie. I was like, now my friend Barry wants to have a chat and I'm wondering what's happening there. And Katie just kind of looked at me and she just kind of was like, I knew it was a lunar eclipse and I still didn't say anything. And I'm like, what does that mean? She's like, lunar eclipses mean like sudden unexpected endings. So basically not the whole plan, but a big plan for the stag didn't and couldn't happen. And we had to pivot at the last minute.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was fucking great. But it very much was like a sudden, unexpected ending. And it was so funny. Katie was just like, she was making no apologies or anything. She was just like, yeah, I knew. And I let you book those dates anyway. Like, yeah, that's on me.
No one else has any responsibility in this but
Yeah.
Katie and the stars.
That's it.
And I booked it with her.
Yeah.
And she didn't consult any lunar charts or anything.
Yeah.
So I should have known.
Yeah.
It was so regular the
Yeah.
way we booked it. It was just like, oh, that day could work.
Yeah.
Okay. I should have gone, Katie.
My wife's an astrologer, by the way.
Everyone knows.
so,
Jeez, if you're still listening now, you know.
But our new Spotify audience, Bart.
Oh, hello, new audience. Yeah. But no, it was great. It was great crack.
Yeah. I wonder, could we, because one of the things we did a lovely hike in the morning and then we did a session in Lochavala in the afternoon, and we might have to check with some of the other musicians, but
We did a hike in Lochavala. We did a session in the morning too.
Yeah.
What did you say?
I don't know what I said.
Yeah, anyway.
But I'll edit it to make myself sound right and you wrong though. Yeah. But I wonder, could we maybe play a little clip of some of the morning dew session? Let's check with the people involved, and because you know what clip I'm talking about.
Oh, not that one.
Yes, that one.
The backing is really like that's so fun, but you have to remove my guitar playing from it because. Anyway,
if it pans out, there will be a special musical surprise at the end of this episode, and I promise you it'll be worth listening to. It will be a version.
Jesus, don't be hyped.
It'll be a version of a tune you all know, played in a way I guarantee you have never heard before. But it was great. It was great. And then I will, without hesitancy, shout out Morning Dew and Nada for giving us the space and great
really
food.
looks after us.
And the Roadside Tavern in the Stew in Varna,
Was also
who do great food. They're great staff. They're great crack. And they have their own whiskey now. I think it's called the 1865. And if you like redbreast and kind of slightly spicy, slightly sherried
Nice.
Irish whiskies, you should definitely try that one. So, yeah.
You want to shout out Eugene's as well.
And Eugene's.
So people will show up at the door and he will go, fuck off.
Eugene's is my favorite bar in
amazing.
Ennisdiamond. An extraordinary collection of whiskies. And yeah, just go. But
And he's a lovely man, but not one for big crowds. I'd
no,
say.
he does. When he's had enough, he's had enough, and I respect him for that.
We could all learn from him. Actually.
Yes, you can.
Also, like just having the lights all off above tables. That like it's like we came in and it was like, yes, I think he likes you. So it's like, yes, you may be seated. And then turn on the light above the table as if it didn't exist before, you know?
Well, it kind of didn't. I think he had like as many people as he wanted in at the moment. So the whole back was in darkness. And
in
then
a
he was
way,
like,
it's kind of cozy as well because you're not like looking at an empty space. It's like, no, this room expands when it is necessary. It's actually, thinking about it now, it's actually genius.
Yep. So it was a lovely day. It was a lovely stag.
What was really funny as well? I have a good friend in Holland who I send like really long voice notes to, and she does to me as well. It isn't just one-way traffic. And she said, "Oh, I can tell you've been with just men for a long day because I was a bit uncouth apparently."
Really?
Which I thought was funny because I always think how men speak to each other is often misrepresented. But I do think there is sometimes we allow for a bit more of a lack of nuance or something. And I was saying a few things and she was like, I can hear you've been out with the boys. And it doesn't happen that much. I don't know, like it's we're nearly always in mixed company.
Yeah, it's true. Even the stag. We had a special guest appearance by newly qualified man, Sonia O'Brien.
Yeah.
So
She did it fucking
She was unreal. And She's now a big burly builder because she's building a cabin. So she's an honorary man.
Oh yeah, that was what you were saying.
Yeah.
But no, we had lots of fun, and you will see if you hear something by the end of the episode, you will know who has won. And if Anthony, indeed, as he just said at the beginning, is better than me.
Themes, topics, connections.
So a thing. Well, I don't know. I always think the springtime is super interesting because, like, when we were, I'm just gonna fucking make it as I want it. Like, it was so interesting that at the end of the last season, we were just like everything was getting so introverted.
Yeah, we just want to go to bed.
We just want to, yeah. And then we had the quietest podcast ever, which actually worked out really nicely. Got some nice responses to it. Actually, people were like really into the silence and were like, "You could have been silent for a bit longer." You know?
Yeah, my favorite part of the podcast is when the two of you just shut
up.
The
fuck up. But I'm still tuning in for that. I don't want the ordinary silence I get from home. I want the silence that anyway. But now it does feel like, oh, new projects, new beginnings, new times. I don't know. Like everything feels like it's in flux anyway, and we're stepping into maybe a new time.
Well, the reason I was thinking about, can't even say the word anymore.
I will close my eyes.
The reason I was thinking about seeds was like this idea of like taking a handful of seeds and tossing them up into the wind, you know, and the wind catches them and some of them will land in puddles and on rocks and will not germinate, and some of them will land in soil and might grow a bit, and then one or two of them might turn into fucking giant trees or something, you know. And it's like, so, and it's just this idea of like, because I find it a bit difficult to grow things in that I have worked with some people who I would consider very good business people, and what I find about them is, what I've noticed is that they love to fail. Like they love to try something. They'll try 10 things, and if 9 of them fail, they're like, "That's fine. Try it, gone. Oh, and now this one works." You know, and I think that's a way of working in the world that I really respect. But while trying to work with people like that, I was like, I am so meticulous. Like before I try anything, I'm like, do I want to try this? What will this take? Is this in alignment with things? And then, you know, it's not that everything has to succeed, because that's fucking impossible. Of course it won't. But I can't, if I try stuff and it doesn't go, it definitely takes me a bit to recover from that. But that's not really how nature works. Nature does a lot of like trying and failing as well. And I don't know, I suppose maybe I'm talking about the illusion of control or something like that, because I think the two of us have thrown like handfuls of seeds up in the air, you know, a little while ago, and are maybe still doing it. And, you know.
It's not, meticulous is a very good word for you. You are very meticulous.
I'm a Virgo. So I'm the punchline of so many astrological jokes. I feel a bit attacked, to be honest.
There was a thing on Instagram yesterday that I sent on about sort of the star signs as cats. And it was
startlingly accurate. Yeah, Throw it up on the Weshtern Instagram.
I should. Yeah. See how it was so funny, especially mine, because I did a birth chart reading with Katie in December, and I'm a Capricorn as my sun, and Pisces moon, and for the cat,
as if we couldn't guess.
Well,
the Pisces moon, I think we could.
That one, exactly. But it's so funny because the Capricorn was just like that meme of the cat hammering at the keyboard, and then the Pisces is just like a cat laying out on its back on a sofa, just staring into the abyss. And I was like, fucking great way to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
Those two just like either working too hard or. But I like that about meticulous and what you're saying about failure, because I was playing basketball with my son yesterday. It was really nice. He came home with the basketball from school, because they do like little blocks where they try something for 6 weeks, and he had shown the most progress, which is a nice way of, you know, like they had rewarded him for keeping going, and kind of like, he was at the beginning, he found it hard, and then just keep going and going. And he's actually getting quite good at it now. And I recorded a really nice slow motion video where he's chucking the ball behind him and into the basket, and he's delighted with himself.
Fair play,
it's
Sammy.
also actually, I have to show it to you, it's really funny because he has like a pure look of blissful concentration just before he does it. It's nearly as if he's like, oh, and now we're gonna nail it. Boom. But yesterday he wanted to play a match against me, and we were kind of, and I have to shoot from farther out and whatever. But
it's because you're 5 times the size of him.
Yeah, I could literally walk it in there. But also, it's not as if I'm going hammer and tongs when I'm playing against a 6-year-old. If you're listening to this in a couple of years' time, Sammy, I'm very sorry.
Yeah.
But I gave it the appropriate amount of effort.
Yeah.
And now you can dunk on me all you want. I'm sure he's as tall as I am now, and he's much fitter.
Yeah.
But future Sammy. But he got a bit upset because I scored 2 lucky points from far out, and he got a bit upset. So I sat with him and I was like, first of all, we've had the chat about losing and learning more from losing and all that stuff, but that it feels nicer to win. We've had that chat a million times, but I was kind of like, you don't have to try so hard. Just keep throwing it. Because I remember that from being small, where I was always like, oh, now I have to do it. Now it's going to be the one. And you just get so tense. Whereas that one where he lobbed it behind him, he was just completely chill and he just chucked it in, and it looked awesome because in slow motion as well, And
he must have been delighted, was he?
Oh, he was delighted. It's cool because you can see him kind of going, did it go in? Because he wasn't looking, obviously. And then he just goes, yes. But I said to him, it's funny how sometimes you hear people saying things, or you hear yourself saying things to people that would have been helpful for you, where it's just like, don't think about it, just keep doing it.
Yeah.
And that's like what you were saying about people being unafraid to fail. In a way, sometimes we can actually remove that effortful part. Like, obviously there's bits where you have to be effortful, but it's funny now, I'm trying to not start a new business, but I'm trying to transition from my translating work more into music and my creative side, because in the end I can feel that's more where it's at, and the podcasting as well. But it's like, if you look at the things, if you use the response, Jesus Christ, sorry, my throat is fucking me up. You're such a slave driver, we would say in Dutch, where you're just like, oh, Bart, I can hear you're croaky, just come in anyway. Oh, that's not your anyway, I'm confused.
It's also literally the opposite of what I said. I was like,
it was internal, Anthony.
I can share the texts. I was like, if you're not feeling
you've
up
got
to
the receipts,
I
have you?
do, yeah, there's a paper trail.
But yes, but internal Anthony, he said, "Will you fucking go now?"
Yeah, I was like, I'll win this podcast.
yeah, and then you said, "I am better."
Yeah, 1-0 to Anthony going into season 3.
Anyway, if you look at sometimes when you're confused about what you should be doing, but you look at the things that create the most response. For me, music and theater and podcasting are things where people really respond. So at least there is something there in some kind of form. But it's scary now, where I've always had 50% music and creative stuff and 50% a normal day job, even though it was freelance, to go, no, actually, we're going to bet on the strange one. But I'm really everything is showing me, talking about looking at what's happening around you to see if you're on the right path. Everything is showing me that it's time to let go and actually believe in the mystery of that's going to work out. It's a bit fucking scary also saying this on a recorded thing now, but let's try and be brave. I think everything is pushing me in that direction. Yeah. But it's like you said, and even Shifu, we've talked about before, my shaman in the Netherlands, I talked to him about it. He was like, I think that's going to be great. And actually, I don't think you have to try to make it happen. I'm like, what? How the fuck does that work? You don't even have to try. What? How? But we're so... You and I are quite effortful, is what I'm taking a meandering road to say. Whereas actually, sometimes less effort can be, like with the basketball, just do chuck it. Yeah. But don't be...
Well, effort can be a mindset as well. It doesn't necessarily mean to expend any less energy. It means to be less effortful. But what I want to ask you, Bart, is tell us about this new business. What is... because everyone knows you play a bit of music.
Yeah.
And yeah, so what's different about what you're doing now?
Well, so I'm going to, Oh, it was
In case you get emotional.
Thank you. It was horrible as well. What do you call it when you just go like that? This is a lovely thing to have on the podcast, but
I think you just call it being Dutch. It's part of your language, isn't it?
We call it neus ophalen, but I don't know. So holding up your nose. Anyway, I don't know, but it's a horrible thing and it's recorded. I'm really sorry, guys, that you had to listen. I'm so comfortable with our audience at this stage.
It's a special guest appearance by Bart's phlegm.
Oh, it's horrible. But what I'm doing, I actually feel also now more called to writing more music and doing that stuff. I think you and I are going to produce some stuff and make some things in the world that'll be.
We've started a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be beautiful. I'd love to do more stuff in theater in general. There's loads of different things. But for now, for the short term, what I've been thinking about is that I really want, like. I didn't think I was going to be talking about this. Otherwise, I would have had an elevator pitch. But it's more about talking about the process, I suppose. So I've always been playing music since being in Clare and playing sessions and pub gigs and weddings and all that. Yeah. I want to keep doing that, do more of that. But also what I'm finding is that a lot of people... There's a beautiful thing here. There is a beautiful thing here with music and culture, and a lot of people are not getting to enjoy it. And I was talking to someone who installs sensors at the entrance to the Cliffs of Moher so they could see the footfall. Why would they not be able to just do that by bookings? I don't know. Well, because there's a lot of people who actually walk up and then you don't have to pay, and then there's season pass holders me. But it was something like 1.2 million people go there every year, which is insane. Mm-hmm. And every time I play there, and I've talked about this before, so many people, especially Americans, go, I've not heard any music since coming to Ireland.
You'd be the first music there.
Yeah, I'd be the first music. And I'm like, wow, that's such a shame. And then my second question is always, so where are you going to be tonight and tomorrow? Oh, tonight we're in Galway, and then tomorrow we're back in Dublin. Yeah. And that just feels like such a waste because, like, I really believe with a lot of things we can have super positive, like, what is the opposite of a zero-sum game? Well,
non-zero-sum game.
Yeah. All right, the tissues are coming out. Oh, fuck, sorry, guys. This is very hard.
I think this might have to be a short episode.
This is going to be hard. Well, it's going to be a very hard listen for people. I'm sorry.
No,
we might put a disclaimer at the beginning. But, like, I really want... Like, there can be benefit to everyone. There can be more... Those people want to find the goddess, and they want to find Claire, and they want to find that music and that genuine experience. And the people here playing... want to benefit from getting that spotlight shone on them, making a few quid as well. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like we talked about, I thought we were discussing this morning, that Niall Graham discussed so eloquently that we're also uncomfortable with money, but that there's actually a real, like, that can be a good thing if it's held properly, you know. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bridge that gap a little bit by... doing all the stuff I'm doing here locally anyway, but also playing to those people who are actually just not getting it and they want it, you know.
Well, it's so lovely. Like, the thing they're looking for is here. Like, that's the thing.
It's here, and it's very easy to facilitate. I think the thing that is missing is maybe an organizational component, actually.
Like linking
those things, because like, we know there's loads of brilliant musicians around and actors and storytellers and whatever, but people don't always know where to find them. And there's a real tradition of having pub sessions and pub gigs and all that, but like, those people, especially in Americans, they get very short holidays. They often, when I talk to my great friend Kat, who lives in Massachusetts, like, they've hardly any days off. a year. Now, you and I are looking at each other going, we're freelancers, we don't know what days off are anyway, but we pick them ourselves.
That's a little different, but yeah.
And it's so easy to go, like I was talking to a guy there yesterday, he's like, oh, there's people who get married at the cliffs. I'm like, yeah, bring me and someone on a fiddle up and it'd be great. You know, it's so easy, but it just needs, that link needs to be made. So that's one of the things I'm going to try and focus on. And it's funny that it's still talking about that on here makes me feel like I'm trying to sell used cars, which I don't think I am. But
like people, the thing is, somebody else is already taking care of these tour groups. Like these people have traveled all the way to Ireland.
Yeah.
To see Ireland, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of them see fucking Temple Bar, the Cliffs of Moher, Shop Street,
yeah,
and Dublin Airport. You know, like, and you're like, so it's not like you're not actually even selling anything. Like, as in, you're not trying to add anything on. You're just like, come look here, like, because there's so much. But the other thing about the music in Clare is it's very oral. Like, you know, there's lots of sessions happening, but like you can't always Google them, right? You kind of need to know. Oh, it's a Tuesday night. There's something happening. You need to talk to somebody, and you need to talk to somebody that's in the scene, like yourself, you know, and either you can play something or you can guide people to something or guide people to other musicians. And like you said, it's not even just musicians, because you've got the trad and the folk, but there's the storytelling. Yeah. There's whether you want a closed session where people listen. There's an open session, maybe where people can join in, because we have some, and we're saying Americans because they're the largest demographic, but any kind of tourists, you know, we've had American and Dutch and English people sit in on our sessions and be fucking great players. And
like for Paddy's Day, there was 9 fiddle players because there was 3 brilliant French fiddle players, and they knew all the tunes just perfectly. Like, they were brilliant.
So I think that's a lovely thing what you're trying to do, Bart.
Well, thanks for making it sound a bit nicer there. But honestly, I do believe it's positive.
But no, I've talked to you enough to know what your intention is with this, you know. I know you're not always comfortable because it can sound like self-promotion and stuff like that, but you really are trying to make sure the people coming have a good experience, make sure the musicians playing have a good experience. Like, you really are. And
it's not trying to take anything away from anyone. I'm just like, this is already here. Can we not just, we quite easily make this a lot better for everyone? And also, like, I know a lot of the people playing music around here do not value what they do enough. And I want to kind of look out for them a bit too, where I'm like, but not, funnily enough, not in a way, some people would go, oh, we have to set up a collective or we have to do something like that. But I've just seen from experience that kind of thing falls flat, because if there's not a specific person leading the charge there, it just falls apart very quickly. So I'm trying to lead a bit of that charge, but then make sure that does... those boons are spread out. And
what people might not know about you, Bart, is you have quite a lot of experience in tour group operating and facilitating. Like you booked and assisted for years with tour groups around Europe.
Around Europe, and it's actually, I find it really fun, because quite often you need to like, things go completely south, because there's a lot of, like, if you have a completely organized tour, there'll be so many little bits that have to fall into place. And then sometimes you will come to a venue and they just go, oh, we didn't know you were going to come. And I'm like, here are the 5 emails I sent you. And they're like, yeah, but still no. And then just go, okay, well, what can we do? You know, and how can we make this fun? And how will it still work? And actually, the funny thing is that sometimes that kind of alfresco thing can feel a lot more special to people, you know, because it's a memorable experience.
Well, it's a unique experience to them. If everything goes right, they will have the same experience that everyone else had.
Well, and this is the thing with the music as well. People don't want cookie cutter experiences. They don't want to all go to the same place and all have the same show. They actually like the fact that they can get something that is the way we experience it as now locals, be it blow-ins. They want that kind of experience where they can see actual people, and it isn't just like a polished show. Like, those polished shows can be beautiful, especially the stuff that like groups like Riverdance do or whatever. It's amazing, you know, the level of quality to produce. But there's something really nice about 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people sitting down going, right, what we do, lads?
Well, that's the living tradition.
That is the living tradition. And then also go, hey, what would you guys like to do? You were talking about a session we were in recently where someone asked if we did Taylor Swift, and we horsed into Taylor Swift. And the funniest fucking thing was that I knew Love Story by Taylor Swift because my kids listen to that song. And actually, I quite like that song. It was on The Bear, that's a Disney show about cook or chefs.
Yeah.
And there was this lovely scene where this guy who's kind of well-intentioned, but he's always just missing the mark. And then he gets to intern is not the right word, but anyway, he gets an internship at like a really high-level restaurant where he just has to polish the spoons for a week. And then after a week, they're like, okay, we'll actually let you do table service. And then he creates this beautiful experience with someone who's like, oh, we never got to taste this local pizza or whatever. And he runs out, he gets the pizza, he comes back in, they make it all nice and chefy and fancy, and they just have the best night. And he's in his car back and he's just blaring, this grown-ass man is just blaring Taylor Swift Love Story. And I think that's why that song has a place in my heart. But the funny thing was when we did it in the session is that I was like, Anthony doesn't know this song. I kind of half know it. I actually needed to grab the lyrics, which I prefer usually not to do. I'd rather kind of try and do it as is. But anyway, I was like, I need to get the lyrics. So we're doing lyrics. And then I was like, oh yeah. And then it goes up a full key. As if that was in any way necessary to add that complexity
none
to it.
None of us knew the song anyway. You could have. You were doing fine.
You could have just left it there. And then I just... oh man, I can't do it now with this voice, but it was really funny.
And I think the person who requested it is not going to go up to you afterwards with their arms folded and go, where's the modulation?
Where's the modulation? I asked for Taylor Swift. I didn't ask for some cheesy, lazy... Anyway, but there's something like, it's a living tradition and there's something really fun about that. But what you challenged me on beautifully with this is how uncomfortable, like, when you do something like this where you're actually trying to, I don't even like saying be the brand, but when you are more forward facing and you're actually, it's so weird to say, like, we're going to have to be really seen in this, even though I'm already performing, so I'm already being seen, but I feel like now I'm really stepping into that being seen. And it makes me deeply uncomfortable. I'm realizing it now we're talking about it. I'm just going to try and be in this discomfort and accept the hate mail that maybe only my internal critic is going to send me.
We should set up a new account for hate mail. But
thanks, buddy.
Well, it's interesting because we were talking about how meticulous the two of us are. And I think one way of looking at being meticulous is that we love to germinate ideas, but don't necessarily love the bit where they push through the soil and start to become visible. Because
I don't know. I think I do love it, but I think I'm just afraid of it. And it's just very vulnerable. Like I've been telling myself stuff like, oh, people won't want a Dutch-born man.
Most people don't even fucking know you're Dutch.
to be doing this stuff. And every time I've said this to an Irish friend, they've gone, who's fucking said that to you?
Yeah.
I'll have a word with them and I'm like, well, actually, no one has said that. That is just me. But every time, and they've about 5 Irish friends have said it to me, and every time I go, well, oh no, they actually didn't. Which shows so much about, would you call it self-talk, or it's insane that the stories, the fucking fantasies we make up in our heads.
Well, I think what you're trying to do there is make sure you don't embody a certain archetype of person that goes to a country and then is like, I'm going to tell you guys how to do your own tradition kind of thing. Because that is an archetype, and I've seen it everywhere. I've seen it in China. I've seen it everywhere. You're trying to make sure you don't do that.
Yeah, maybe that's what
and I think that's better to be overly cautious about that. But at the same time, you also have to acknowledge when like people are like, no, you're good. You go for it. And especially when what you have is a good intention for everyone. is...
Yeah, and it's also not about telling people how to do a thing. It's firstly, I'm doing my own thing, and it will be my voice singing, my way of playing music, but also trying to facilitate the Irish culture that I have embedded myself in, but not like going, oh, and now I'm going to take it, and I'm going to... But yeah, I'm very uncomfortable about that. But it's a combination. So it's a combination of not being from here and then feeling that are you taking a position that people like? It's very easy to shoot me down on that. Yeah. So it's very vulnerable.
So again, we'll set up a hate mail account.
Yeah. Thank you. It's these.
But to torture the analogy a little bit more, Bart, if you'll allow, like the like we've said this many times, winter is not the time of death in terms of Chinese philosophy. It's actually the harvest is the time of death, and winter is the time when seeds are underground and germinating. And things are very safe when they're underground, right? Yeah. Like it's very hard to like dig into the ground and find a seed and eat it. But as soon as things start to sprout, being visible is part of growth, right? You have to actually like stick your head above the parapet, and you have to push the leaves above the soil. And what I find kind of interesting is this is the idea of wood energy in the 5 phases in the Wuxing. Yeah. So it's wood, fire, earth, metal, water, and springtime is wood energy. And wood is often associated with anger. It's often associated with irritation, with frustration, premenstrual tension, this kind of wound up cramping. This would be kind of wood energy as well. And I have started thinking about it less as a symptom and more as like a part of the process, because getting wound up and angsty and just being like, fuck it, it's too uncomfortable to stay where I am. Yeah. I actually have to change something. Sometimes when we're comfortable, when the seeds are happy under the ground, when the baby lambs are happy inside their mother's wombs, you don't want to change. Everything's good. But wood energy comes along and just goes, you have to move. You can't stay where you are anymore. And that irritation is sometimes what you need to break out of your cycle, your familiarity, and try something new.
100%. And I think the issue is here. You've spoken quite eloquently, I found, over the last 2 seasons on the pod, and just in general when we are chatting outside of it, about the kind of idea of when the rubber meets the road. Hits the road or meets the road. Well, it can do both, but it meets the road, I suppose. And I think that's kind of what this is about as well. I think part of our, if I may speak for you as well, our meticulousness is also just the carefulness of not being shut down. Like if you're very meticulous about things and you are just 100% sure that this is the truthful thing to be doing, then it will be less likely. People still give you grief because people will always get triggered by their own thing.
I also think that's just part of it. Like I think people are allowed to criticize. I think
100%. Well, that too, but I do. Don't you think that meticulousness is also just the carefulness?
Oh yeah,
of not being got.
Yeah.
And but the older you grow, and the more you grow in general, hopefully, there just comes a point where you're like, you hear that people say this a lot where they're like, I just felt like I had to say something or I had to do so. That's kind of where I'm at, I think, where I'm like, part of me is just very afraid and wants to be very careful and self-effacing and like, oh, guys, I know I'm not, really the right person. But then when I'm playing music, when I'm singing and the response is there, I can feel the truth of it then.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is not a fake experience. This is a real experience. People wouldn't be moved if it was a fake experience. But at the point of setting it up or setting out, it feels, it just feels very scary. And just, but it's weird as well, isn't it? Because you only have yourself. Like there isn't a different, Claire-born version of me that, or maybe there is in the multiverse, but I don't have him here anyway. So the only person that can do this like this is the way I am now.
Yeah, you have to play the hand you're dealt. And if there was a Claire-born version of you might not appreciate Claire as much. Like
I think that's what someone said to me as well, is like that I might be the person for it because I came here for that reason. And so when people come here for that reason, they don't get it, I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
Such a shame. Also, because I really want Claire to thrive, whereas I feel now it isn't reaping the rewards. It's getting like the tour buses clogging up the motorways,
the fast,
and all that stuff.
The fast tourism.
Yeah, but so that money is not staying here at all.
Mm-hmm.
And not to make it all about money, but I wish for this Kingdom of Clare to be.
Oh yeah, no. On that note, I'm all up for promoting tourism within Clare, but we need to remember that
the kingdom is
Kerry is,
Okay, yeah.
So not €1 must be taken from the vast tourism coffers of my homeland. I think Kerry, I think makes more off tourism than any other county in Ireland. I think it's a bigger percentage of their.
I'd say so. I'd say it's also much better organised because.
Well, maybe not more than other, but as a percentage of income, I think Kerry is the tourism is the.
Okay, so have we set me up for enough hate mail and grilled my soul for long enough?
There's never enough, Bart, but like it's a start, you know.
You do get some satisfaction from it, don't you?
Very much. I think it's good for you. So.
Why do people always think it's good for me? I've heard that so many times. Like, it's good for you. You need taking down a peg.
To go back to wood energy, and like somebody told me this when I was releasing a project a few years ago, and I was worried about it was a Chinese medicine thing, and I was worried about how the kind of comments I could attract, and I was writing the script for what I was doing, preempting criticism. And it just made it very unpleasant to watch. Yeah. And not unpleasant, but just kind of boring. And it was like, you're kind of, get to the point. You can't already be pre-apologizing,
Yeah, 100%.
And a friend of mine, Neil, was just like, you're putting something out publicly. Somebody's going to come for you. He's like, that's the internet. Yeah. And also it's kind of humanity. And even if you step back a bit further, if you take a stand on something, if you're going to go, well, actually, I think things should be this way because I think this is good for everyone, and I'm gonna put energy into doing things this way. Somebody else is going to be like, well, actually, the problem with that way is this, and they're not necessarily wrong, but it also doesn't mean you should stop doing what you're doing. Yeah. And I think for meticulous people like us, like you said, we're careful because we just want nobody to criticize anything. Yeah. And you can't create like that. Like when you throw a handful of seeds up in the air, some of them will not sprout. Like it's just, if everything succeeded all the time, if there was no counterbalance, things would get out of control,
And the funny thing is that I think that's a very young part of me that's just, that's afraid of the response. Then again, I've gotten plenty of grief in my time. And actually, I think I'm able to deal with it quite well. But... well, what quite often will happen, and especially online, is that someone will say something or be really aggressive with something, and you're like, oh, okay, that's not... it says a lot about the person themselves, quite often. Quite often, you will see that they have been triggered in something, or that they're angry at something, or they don't want to see a certain perspective. I've gotten plenty of bad comments and stuff that I've actually been kind of okay with. I think the underlying fear is not necessarily, people are going to give out. The underlying fear is, am I actually wrong?
Yeah.
Which is a mad thing, but there's a part of me that's actually like, I don't know if you know this voice, but it's like, you say you try to do well. You say that you try to be nice to people. But really, which is a horrible way. Like, if I thought about you that way, it'd be horrible, but there is that part inside yourself where you're like, to be honest, Bart, we all know you were fill in the dots,
Well, I think the interesting thing about wood energy is because it is this assertive, almost angry, almost irritated energy. It makes you a bit more able to handle confrontation, right? Because you're like, I'm just going to do this. Well, actually, do you think maybe? No!
Yeah.
And I think sometimes you need that. Of course, it can be out of balance as well. But the thing about allowing and welcoming criticism, and I'm saying this as somebody who does not handle criticism well, but, so this is like me desperately trying to convince myself, but you don't need that voice. Because if you put something out there, you can trust the intelligence of the people around you to let you know if you're out of line.
Yeah.
And actually, like, and I've had this as well, where people come at me and criticize me quite strongly. It happened a few months ago. And what I had to do was like sit for a long time, and off the back of it, I was like, yeah, I take 10% responsibility for that. But I'm like, the other 90%, no. Despite the criticism, I'm actually very committed to what I'm doing. And actually that criticism, as unpleasant as it was, has really strengthened me, because it made me look at a few things and go, yeah, no, I actually am pretty happy with the way I'm doing things. So I know what you're saying, but I think there's a difference between judging the person and judging the action. Actions are always going to be imperfect.
Yeah.
And therefore it's okay to have a bit of criticism, but it's when it gets into begrudgery, or when it gets into like bad, not bad faith, but bad intentioned criticism and stuff like that. But that's also just part of it.
Yeah, but I'm suppose what I'm trying to say is that it's more about what's happening on the inside than actually what's happening on the outside. I do think that's, like, I was given out a bit about our meticulousness, but I do think a thing that you and I both do well is actually we both take on feedback pretty well, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think artists in general, are we artists? Can we say that? Yeah.
You said it, not me.
But I was also thinking about other people. But like, you have to be this incredibly difficult combination of sensitive and robust, because the way you get better is by self-criticism and comparison. And like, it's really rough, but that is it. If you write a song and somebody's like, Bart, that was amazing, you're like, thank you so much. And you're in your head, you're like, I didn't quite hit that high note. I could have done that bit of it slower. That transition could have been better. And it's quite hard to accept in the moment it was imperfectly perfect. Yeah. But also for the next time you want it to be better. Yeah. And also you're like, well, that guy does a cover of this song, which is even better. Because like, talking to like high level musicians, high level athletes, they're rarely happy with themselves.
Yeah. And I get genuine pleasure actually from proper feedback. When people, but that's a funny thing. I was thinking about that before as well, when we were talking about trying things, like to be meticulous, but that are in that unknown space. There's actually pleasure there as well. Like I get quite, I'm scared of being like, well, I'm going to try this new thing. It sounds like it's nonsense, but we'll just see it. But I get quite excited. My body remembers from different times when that has worked. But I have a similar feeling with feedback when people go, no, definitely bought this. Go, oh, great, I can use that. So when it's good faith, I suppose it's the bad faith stuff that we all struggle with. Yeah. So I think it's time to grill you, but I really need to pee.
Oh my gosh.
Can you hold the fort?
Oh, I'd rather not. I'd rather not.
Well, this is part of your punishment, is that you... we're not going to cut this out. Do it.
Well, I'll grab a prop, I guess.
The double-headed dildo.
Oh, Bart. Stick with the single-headed. Okay. And pray this is in tune. Close enough. a bit ropey, but...
Sure, when you tune a double-headed dildo, what do you expect?
Well, I was playing with the single-headed dildo. I thought I should walk before I run. So that is the theme song to, I hope you don't mind a wee minor plug, myself and Katie have started a very irregular little pod. Oh my God, the face.
The balls on this guy to not ask me and just railroad that in.
Well, it wouldn't have happened if you didn't leave me a tiny fragment of space to fill. So yeah, myself and Katie have started a podcast called Librarians of Babel, and it's a very irregular podcast. We'll basically upload whenever we are inspired to, so it's not going to be a weekly thing, but we hope to get something up every month at least. And it's a podcast about esoteric books, and it's a bit odd, and it's a bit funny, and it's a bit... Yeah, we kind of wanted a space where we could talk about... There's a lot of books out there that are a bit mad, but there's a core of truth to them. So that's kind of it. We don't want like just a nice book. We want something where you're just like, this is bananas, and a lot of this doesn't make sense. Or other, not even that it doesn't make sense, but it's got some pretty wacky ideas. But there's something to it. So that's it. The title is taken from Jorge Luis Borges' short story called The Library of Babel, which is one of my favorite short stories by one of my favorite authors. So yeah, that's my plug. Shanae.
And I encourage everyone to listen. I think the first episode is already out.
The first 3 are out.
Oh, I tried to be nice, and it came really
you
bad.
encourage everyone to listen, but you haven't listened, have you, Bart?
I have not yet had the time to.
No,
listen.
you get enough of me, Jesus Christ.
No. I'm 100% going to listen. See, this is funny now because I wanted to be an absolute dick about this, and then I thought, no, I'll be nice, I'll be good, and then it just completely went
you've been
wrong.
Scrolling like aggressive runes in your notebook.
Yeah, well, listen. Like that was vulnerable for me, you dickhead.
Yeah.
And then you went and talked about your other podcast that's going to replace me with your much cleverer and talented and more beautiful wife. And
now, what am I meant to do with that
conflicted.
statement?
I don't know.
I feel you're much more beautiful than my wife.
Well, that's not the problem. That is fine. The problem is that I'm being replaced.
You are absolutely.
You
are not. Jesus.
I think this episode might just come across all the way wrong because I'm actually having a laugh, but it's just when you're sounding a bit sick, everything
does kind of sound like
everything sounds like a bit more dickish.
And poor Bart was choking up.
Yeah, he was like, no, I'm only having a laugh. No, I'm actually really excited listening because I think it's always amazing what kind of spell books and stuff you guys always have and talk about, and I would not be able to talk about them properly, and I'm really looking forward, but I haven't had time. There's no, and it's also that is a thing where feels to me where I'd really want to
it's a
sit
bit
down
of
and go, okay, we're gonna go fucking esoteric, because here with Western philosophy we kind of go have and have, sort of bit deep, but then bit of levity, bit of crack, but that's probably I'm gonna have to have seatbelts on my ears for that one.
Well, we try to keep it light, but like the books are, it's have a listen is what I'd say, and do let us know how you're doing. I don't think we have any social medias. We're just going to keep it for myself and Katie. So anyone that has any comments, you can contact us directly. And like I said, it's kind of a different type of podcast because it'll be like whenever we have a book we want to talk about, we'll record.
What's
a podcast.
the first book?
It's called Serpent of Light by Jomvelo Melchizedek. And it's about... There is an astronomical and astrological event called the Precession of the Equinoxes, which is a 26,000-year cycle. And this is a real measurable thing. And the Mayans knew about it, which is mad that Mayan day keepers were able to measure astronomical cycles of tens of thousands of years without telescopes. Like they just looked at the sky with their naked eye. But anyway, Drumvelo is a man who meditates a lot and gets visited by guides who tell him to go to places and do things, and he does them. And so the story is a bit of a hero's journey. It's a bit of an epic adventure quest where him and his nephew, he receives instructions from his guide Thoth while meditating that he has to take crystals and place them at points of power at temples in South America because the Kundalini energy of the entire earth is moving. So human bodies have Kundalini energy, which sometimes activates as a certain age and can facilitate movement and transformation. But Drumvelo is like the whole earth has Kundalini energy, which moves in accordance with the precession of the equinoxes, and that in order to help it move and in order to make sure everything on earth is healthy and happy, these crystals need to be placed at points of power. But it's about the journey, and like whatever you think about that, and this is the whole point of Library of Babel. You can buy into that or you don't have to. Like, but it's an incredible story. And the people he meets and the things he does, and whatever you think about what he's doing, the results of it are beautiful. And it's also just an epic story. Like, how cool just to get a message going, pack your bags, you're going to fucking South America. And like, they tell him what to do. I think there's 8 crystals. They tell him what to do with the first 4. They're like, it has to be exactly here and it has to be this. And then they're like, the last 4 you're on your own. You have to figure out, but don't get it wrong. It's great. It's great. So we talk about that. He touches on a load of other things as well. So it's
you sold me
fun.
on it. So hopefully that goes for the other listeners as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Oh, don't you love a bit of quest energy?
Yes, quest energy. That's what you called our group chat with me, you and Larry, wasn't it? Big quest energy, because Larry had to fight through fucking snowstorms and everything to get over.
Well, and he's also he's on a quest. But anyway, I won't reveal that to him yet if he's listening.
Okay, well,
but
drop that.
No, but that's amazing. That's amazing, and made me think of the round towers around here as well.
Oh yeah.
I'd love to get the round tower of Kilnaboy reconstructed, because apparently the round towers were meant to like bring the energy of the sun into the soil, something like that, to make the land more prosperous. I think that would be amazing.
Well,
No, go on.
No, it's that book in Harry's, isn't it? I can't remember the name of it, but it's related to the pyramids and the round towers, and it's the idea of like geometric structures and geometric shapes having an effect on the growth of plants and stuff like that.
Which is
very,
amazing.
Very interesting. Yeah.
So one new thing because we're talking about seeding, you seedy bastard.
I'm a seedy boy.
Seedy boy. I don't know why boy is always so funny.
In my head, it's BOI as well.
Yeah, 100%. The boys. But and another thing that you are doing, which you're so good at, well, sorry, I'm exactly halfway through, being genuine and just fucking you about a little bit more. So I'm that's why I fell silent.
That was amazing.
I was like,
you hit that razor blade exactly.
Yeah, I hit it exactly on the head, and I was just like, are we going left or are we going right? Everyone's waiting for this. I'll go left.
Yeah.
I'll go left. No, you're so good at chiromancy. But actually, because I can't really speak, I'm going to let you speak about chiromancy. But and regular listeners will remember that we did a tarot reading, the first episode of the second season. I'd actually love to do one again sometime. I really enjoy it. But what I have seen that you're very good at, that I can comment on, is you're very good at reflecting people's stuff back at them. And I think the cards are a very good way of you tapping into that. Is that right, or does it mean something else to you?
Yeah, well, look, what's happening is I'm offering tarot readings for the next few weeks on a donation basis. And there's a few reasons for that. When I'm practicing herbal medicine, acupuncture, I have expenses, I have herbs, I have licenses, premises, I have insurance, I have to charge have to charge a certain amount, and that amount has gone up because everything has gone up, and I don't like that. I don't feel too good about that, because by definition, when you're doing this kind of work, you're dealing with people who are in need, and then you're asking, it has to be done, but I don't love it. But the tarot is something I can offer that doesn't have too many expenses, right? It's just my time, you know. It also, doing it on donation is the way quacks used to work in Ireland. So before quack was a derogatory term, it just meant like a hedge doctor, a hedge healer, a banfassa. Biddy Early famously took no payment, you know, people would donate things, you know. So it's kind of harkening back to that tradition of country healers that we had here in Ireland, where it was like, just give what you can, you know. And there are plenty of people out there, like, times are a bit weird, times are a bit tough for a lot of people. For me, tarot is a way of working with problems and forces that are bigger than yourself, you know. So that's what I'm doing. So I'll do it for a couple of weeks anyway. Why, when it comes to reflecting things back at people, a weird thing happens with healing, right? Where, like, there's this maybe archetype of the physician as God, okay, where you are broken and I shall fix you, right? And that's quite a passive relationship, okay? Now, sometimes it's needed. If you fall off your bicycle and your shin bone is sticking out through your leg, go submit to the surgeon. But there's another type of healing where you support and you reflect, and actually the really important thing is to keep yourself out of it as much as possible, because I think a lot of people have a tremendous ability within themselves to heal. And I love any mechanisms you can work with people by which you can just help them gain more inner clarity and inner support, because I think people have forces acting upon them that they probably aren't fully aware of, but I also think they have supports available to them and strengths that they probably don't fully realize either. And so the way I like to work with that, and it's because I'm this type of person, I love stories, I love narratives. I think if you can change somebody's story, you can do a lot. If somebody keeps coming back to me for lower back pain, I can keep giving them acupuncture and fixing the lower back pain. But eventually you have to ask, why are you coming back? And you're like, well, I feel like I can never rest. I have to keep working. My father always kept working. I can't sit down. A man has to keep... And you're like, okay, so the back pain is not a herniated disc or inflammation. The back pain is a story. The back pain is the story you cannot rest. And where does that story come from? And the thing about stories is they never really end. Right? They have climaxes, they have conflicts and resolutions, but they don't end until we die, and maybe not even then. So what I love about tarot is that tarot is a very narrative way of dealing with people's issues. There is past, present, future, there is the conscious, there is the subconscious, there are conflicts and resolutions, there are strengths and oppositions, and that works for me. I like stories, and I think stories have a very important place in healing, and I think tarot is a great place to access those stories.
Full stop. No, I think that's brilliant. And I think because there's really something, like with your Chinese medicine work as well, where I've always thought like, oh, you need to maybe allow for more abundance, but then I so understand what you're saying, because you're always dealing with people in a vulnerable position. That's very hard. Like there's something, it's very different, like what I'm trying to do, where say someone is already expending money to come to Ireland, and then they spend a wee bit more to have a super enriching experience, where they actually will usually go, oh, that was the highlight of my trip. You go, well, this is very easy, but that's very different than someone coming to you going, yeah, I'm in so much pain, or I'm suffering from this, that, and the other. No one else can help me. Like you've spoken to that before as well, where you're people's last port of call, which is immense pressure to be under, which is different than helping them reframe the story, which actually might be as beneficial, but it just puts less pressure on the person, Anthony, and you're well able for the pressure. I'm not saying you're not, and you always do this diligently and lovingly and beautifully, and I hold you in very high esteem for it. I don't know why I'm saying this stuff, guys. He doesn't fucking care about words of affirmation, but I mean it anyway. And
it's appreciated.
But I could see that this be a way and you're so good at it, because quite often when I will come to you with a formed question, and it won't be like a practice, you won't go into practitioner mode, you'll still be my friend, but you're very good at just listening and going, do you think maybe this? And I go, nah. And because I'm pretty good at taking on feedback, I'm like, yeah, 100%, that's great. That was the exact reframing I needed, and off we go.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that could be really nice tool in the arsenal, and then all the other things as well.
Well, it's been coming into my other practice, which if you had told me this 5 years ago that I would be pulling cards during a herbal consultation, I would not have believed you. But it's come up a few times where people are having difficulty accessing an emotion or an event or understanding their relationship with another person or a job or something like that. And you're kind of like, you can keep banging away at it, but sometimes eventually you get to the point where I don't fucking know. I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know how I feel about it. Yeah. And you're like, we draw cards. And it's been, and they're like, oh yeah, no, that's how I feel about it. And it's very interesting to watch that. And it's not telling them because, but it's revealing. And because the cards they're not like a blood test. They're not like, it is exactly this and it is exactly this. Yeah. Every card has a spectrum of meanings from positive to negative. Yeah. And intuitive meanings. Cards have different meanings the same card will have different meanings to different people. And so there's a lot of flexibility there, but the flexibility is actually the strength of the reading as well. So yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. So yeah.
I think it's very apt for this time as well, because I think more and more people are letting go of the super materialist worldview, which actually, like, I always think Jonathan Pajot has a YouTube channel, Canadian guy. He speaks to this really. He's kind of a philosopher and an iconographer, and he speaks to this very well. That it doesn't really make sense. Like, he has a story about, like, when I say to he says, like, when I say to my wife, I'm going to get milk from the store, I'll be back in 15 minutes. Like, that is what she needs from that story. Yeah. If I then go, and then I walked out the door, I closed the door, and I stepped onto Baker Street, and then I walked 10 paces to the right, and then I go, but that's nearly like a scientific way of looking at what happened, but it's actually, we live in stories and intention. Yes. And what is the intention of what I'm doing? Yeah. And I think it's brilliant that tarot allows also for people's, it's nearly like you're just, I do think reflection is the right word actually, because you are being like a mirror, even with those cards, and people, it's their own light, they're shining at it, and they're getting something back, but it does feel very real, because the very materialist people might go, oh yeah, sure, you're just telling yourself a story, as if that is nothing. Yeah. But we tell ourselves stories all the time, and it's even so powerful that they can never, when they do a scientific study, they can never get placebo out of it. Like, it's so funny because they always go, we need to check for that placebo, but it's like, yeah, but isn't it mad that placebo is nearly always more powerful force than the actual thing you're testing for?
And it's because placebo doesn't exist. I think straight up that there's no such thing as placebo. Placebo, because we live in a world of scientific materialism, where only things that are measurable are considered to exist. Yeah. Even though we have a whole branch of it called theoretical physics, and the reason it's called theoretical physics is because it is not possible to experimentally verify it. So we have a whole realm of physics which is based on no evidence. Yeah. None. No, it's in the name. It is theoretical. Anyway, so they're like, in scientific materialism, only things that have a physical, measurable existence are physical and measurable are given to exist. What placebo is ritual. It is anything intangible. It is relationship, it is context, it is environment, it is the passage of time, it is emotion, it is connection, it is understanding, it is challenge, conflict, resolution. It is a lot of things that great indigenous healers have embodied for all of human history. It is also very difficult to bottle it, patent it, and sell it. Yeah. So they've invented this thing called the placebo effect. And of course, it's impossible to, quote unquote, control for the placebo effect, because in any healing intervention, All of these things are present.
Yeah.
But what biomedicine does, it's like, they don't exist, they don't exist, they don't exist, they don't exist, they don't exist. And that's why all the fucking research is fucking flawed. And the placebo effect is sometimes 5% effective and sometimes 60% effective. And then it varies wildly. So why are we testing drugs against the placebo?
Yeah.
Why would you test a drug which is a fixed intervention against something that wildly fluctuates and has no biomedical understanding of it? It's just to diminish these aspects of healing.
Yes.
I was at a bar. I met a friend at a bar and she introduced me to her flatmate. And we went up to the bar to order a round of drinks. And she was like, I was like, what do you do? She's like, I'm an actress. I'm like, oh, very cool. She's like, what do you do? And I'm like, I'm an acupuncturist. And she's like, oh my God, I love acupuncture. Who cares if it's just placebo effect? And I was like, it's not. And I was like, also, you're an actress. Like, everything you do is the placebo effect.
Yeah,
and you've made a career off of the placebo effect over something that's completely flexible and intangible and context-based. But that's it. She had this idea that there is real medicine and then there is the placebo effect. So
I 100% agree with you. It's also when I say it, I have the same understanding of that as you. It's more, I was thinking actually of an interview I saw where someone said, if the placebo effect is nearly always stronger than the drug, how can we kind of bottle that, you know? But it's kind of like, not even in that's a kind of a joke, but, but even like in a more serious way, that person, I was like, why did I never think about it that way? They were like, why are we not aiming at that?
Yeah.
Rather than, and then I suppose some
we always
practices
have.
are, but a lot
Most
of
indigenous practices,
but it's only the recent biomedicine that won't do it.
I think it's so funny, man, and it's actually something I was just thinking about yesterday. So the fact that you asked me about this, I'm like, I had that ready to go.
Yeah, in the chamber. Well, there's. And another thing I want to come back to what you said there is I really liked what you said. I wouldn't have thought 5 years ago that I'd ever do this, and that's. I was thinking the same there when I was talking about the new business venture, you know, and that it's so uncomfortable. And the whole time during this podcast, I've had a voice that's going, oh, I hope people don't think we're now using this just to sell something, because that's actually not it. We're actually being vulnerable about something that we're very just uncomfortable about. Yeah. But that is the thing that needs to come out, and it's cool because it's real medicine. This podcast for me is real medicine. I've noticed that my speech has become much freer, and it's funny when I meet people I haven't spoken to in a while, and they go, "You do what?" But just something, you know. If I talk about fucking the good people or about spirits or whatever, and they go, I've never heard about this," and then I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't realize how much more closed off I was, but this is actually helping me just be more real and more real and more vulnerable and more real in the world. And that's great. Yeah. And we'll have I'm sure we'll have the scars to show for it at some point. But it's super helpful. So I like that you said, like, oh, I would never have thought, and that's something Joe Flynn said on the Stag as well. Joe Flynn, who's been a previous guest, and he's just like, I've had so many dumb ideas over the course of my life that I'm not particularly, you know, it really helps you to stop thinking you're right, you know? And I think that space is also something you and I find both very important, is that it's like, we can all feel or have very different opinions, but as long as we can connect and be real about that connection, because that is the more real thing than the idea that we have right now that we might have completely discarded in 10 years' time. Like, you thought you had to be this really serious acupuncturist and not herbalist, what's the word?
Yeah, herbalist.
Yeah, herbalist, there it is. You thought you had to be really serious, and maybe that part of that was also influenced by the fact that the biomedicine guys weren't taking you seriously, and now you're actually like, yeah, I don't take you seriously. Which is great.
Well, I think certainty is a terrible thing, Bart. So
horrible.
Here's to less certainty and more dumb ideas, I guess.
More what? More dumb ideas.
More dumb ideas.
Yeah, 100%. And more space and more connection. Sure, that was why Flan got me so much when he said, "Oh, you have to talk to your enemies." It's about the connection.
Yeah.
Whenever we discard something and say it is other, it's not helping. It really isn't helping. It's just creating more tension within ourselves and in the outside world.
Yep. I'm up for it. So
I really want to apologize for how snotty and phlegmy this was. It really was. I really didn't. I thought usually when I've like a gig where I have to sing, it gets kind of better before I go on. It didn't get better. No. And it all got fucking recorded.
We got through it, man. We got through it. So, season 3, the egg is cracked. It has begun. Shin,
I'm really looking forward, brother.
Yeah, me too.
And maybe we should set up that account for not just hate mail, but also for people just to tell us what they're thinking. I'd love that. I'd love to get a bit
into the socials.
Yeah, fire it into the socials. Yeah, that'd be great.
And if you have hate mail, just like pin it to Bart's front door or something. His air code will be in the description.
This has been Weshtern Philosophy. Follow us on the socials at Weshtern Philosophy Pod. If you want to support the podcast, you can join our Patreon to help the show grow, or make a one-off donation via the Ko-fi link in the episode description. We'll be back next week with more chats and another topic. Slán.